What's up?
What's up, dude?
Here we are. We're back.
We're back. We're doing, I guess this is not our first sequel today, but it's the first sequel we're doing that we don't like. We're not instant fans of it. We're going to try and give it its due today.
Yeah,
and
I'm going to try to steel man it a little bit, or at least like I'm going to try to sort of represent, I think, the canon that it comes from or is appealing to. I'm going to do my best to understand it. But so
Frozen 2 is what we're doing today. And I got to say, before we do this, we're starting to release these episodes. And my wife just listened to our episode of Frozen, the first Frozen that we did that came out. I think it's our episode 6 or whatever. And she had some criticisms for me. She definitely pointed out, like, you guys are such dudes talking about a story about sisters. When we did Frozen, I thought we actually defended some good points about it and Steelman some ideas about that. We had our critiques of it as well.
She wasn't having it, huh?
She thought we were a little too critical of it. But like, so my wife grew up one of 3 sisters, and she's like, you didn't talk about it all as a sisters movie at all. That's why like so many of us girls love it. Like, it's this connection. Like, no one ever explores that. And then I talked with you, Mike, about that. We're like, yeah, that's fair. Like, we definitely are 2 dudes' perspective on this. So that's definitely what you're going to get. Yeah.
It's definitely called StoryDads.
Yeah. We're not story moms.
Yeah. I had no sisters. I had a brother who was special needs. And so like I didn't even necessarily have like the brother experience, so I'm even further removed from having the sister experience. So that's good to hear. Like I also, and I love to hear the criticism and the pushback, because it means I think that we're like hitting some notes.
Love it.
And we're not going to, that's what's awesome about story is that it is like 1,000 different things, and why stories are so powerful. I think it's why we have these discussions, is because we're so influenced and impacted by story that we want to talk about it.
And why you and I are interested in doing a whole silly podcast to unpack this stuff, because it's genuinely interesting for us. And it did lead to an interesting conversation with my wife about it, which I loved, even if I don't care if we butt heads on it or disagree or whatever. That's fine. The other thing too is like my whole goal in this podcast, we've talked about this, is to kind of help people learn how to think in these more critical ways about these stories and what do these things mean. And it's been fun as we've been rolling these out for people to hear them and then say like, oh, I never thought about it this way, or Micah's insights on Dumbo, or your kind of stuff on Wreck-It Ralph, like kind of changes the way I think about that. And like, that's the ultimate win for me, if someone gives that sort of insight of after listening to one of these episodes. I don't know if you made it with us this long, I hope you have had that experience in some way.
Yeah, and if you have, I hope that you
comment, subscribe, and let us know.
Yeah, that's right. I hope that you like, comment, subscribe, and get in there and let us know, and then tell all your friends to do the same thing, and then create a Discord about it. I understand that for a large swath of people, or maybe all of us, depending on how much energy we have in that moment, stories are just entertainment. It's just to plow whatever thoughts I have in my head that are my own out and make room for something that just tickles pleasure centers.
Sure.
But that's not the way I like to take in stories.
I think if that's all it was, then like Godfather wouldn't be seen as one of the best movies ever, or like these things that we objectively hold of like truly great films. Like you wouldn't put Saving Private Ryan and Jingle All the Way on the same tier.
Right.
It sounds ridiculous, right? And I think you know that intuitively. And because there's one's popcorn, just turn your brain off, whatever, entertainment, silliness, and one is like powerful, sacrifice, all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
So
well, and so like Roberto Bernini's "It's a Beautiful Life." Or is that, I think, what it's called?
Life is Beautiful. Life is Beautiful.
Life is Beautiful. Exactly. That's it. I'll never watch it again. And it's one of the most incredible experiences I've ever had in 108 minutes or whatever it is. Like and so it certainly is not entertaining.
Yeah.
And yet, my God, like I was changed by that. It was so phenomenal. It's such an amazing, audiovisual symphony But so anyway,
so where does Frozen 2 fit in all that?
Yeah, and so that's where I want to like come in with Frozen 2, because there's some things, and I have not seen the quotations myself, but what I have heard from other channels that have said that there's some that there has been some overt agenda behind one of the writer and director's efforts, which is to specifically not engage the Judeo-Christian canon, like to pull Disney quite purposefully away from these sort of Western Judeo-Christian ideals. And so in Frozen 1, we kind of figured out, like, if that was their agenda, they failed, because whether it was on purpose or completely inadvertent, and it sounds like maybe inadvertent, they landed, like, the crux of the story for the characters is no one has a greater love than someone who lays down their life for their friends, which is from the Christian Gospels.
Right.
And perfect love casts out all fear, which is from the Pauline epistles. So like both principles are
very much there.
They're not only very much there, but they are very uniquely and originally Christian. Like both of those ideas did not predate the writing of the Gospels and the writing of the epistles.
Right.
They're unique to what we would call, it's called the West, but it really starts in the Near East, right? So that region is where that teaching came from. It's in North Africa and the Persian Gulf, So anyway, it's foundational Western canon, foundational Judeo-Christian principles. So if that was her project with the first one, didn't quite hit it. So in Frozen 2, what would you say? What are the principles that are coming out of this?
Well, it feels like they go more overt in that direction, and I'll try to think of some of the whole story is something is not right in Arendelle. There's all these elements that start showing up that show that something from our history is rotten and needs to be corrected. And it leads to this whole backstory, how the people of Arendelle tricked I can't remember their names, but the native tribe in order to sabotage or sacrifice something of their land in order to basically take advantage of those. So it's definitely got a colonialist, Westerners come in, take advantage of the natives, and we need to correct that sin of the past.
And the sin is committed not only against the indigenous people, but against the earth spirit, like that Gaia goddess, right? Like that. Right. Ultimately, there's these 5 spirits that are,
and nature is rebelling against us for this crime, the sin from the past that rings still true through today. And you don't have to think hard to look at all the social and political commentary in ways that feels very topical to kind of modern political discourse.
Yeah. It's framed very much the way I was taught American history, in the 90s, 80s and 90s in Eugene, Oregon, which we had the People's History of the United States that we were learning from. It was
Howard Zinn. You learned Zinn growing up?
That was what they literally taught the history textbooks from.
Oh, wow.
At my public high school. So I was, I was educated way ahead of the curve on this stuff. But so it's easy to see that analogy that the canon that they're introducing is this new modern attempt to create a canon, which is, I would argue, is all power dynamics.
Yes.
And so the biopolitics are that the earth was sinned against, it was pillaged. This dam that's put up represents this assault on the natural order.
It's oppression to the order. It's
oppression to the order. It was also deceit. And betrayal, and the mustachioed colonialist strikes at this moment of peace and honor and good faith, right? And so like I don't even want to judge it. Just point out what the canon is that they're appealing to. They're trying to create this new canon.
That's the framework. That's the world, and you could argue about what historical or political things like that harkens to now, but like that's the world they're creating. That's how the stage is set in Frozen 2.
Yeah, and so how does that differ from, say, because there are also other more ancient Western canon stories where there is like there's something rotten in Denmark, right? Where there has been something committed that has
there's an ancient sin from the past that's gone unaddressed that needs to be focused on.
Yeah, and I think of maybe Grecian tragedies where, you know, if we're going to talk about Western thought, they're nestled obviously deeply in the roots of that. And usually it is some kind of act of pride, stepping out of one's, you know.
I mean, I think the idea that like, hey, this thing that happened in history that everyone is oblivious to, that we've whitewashed over, is still having these lingering effects, and we need to be aware of what that is I don't think that's, I think that's a reality of history. That's how history progresses, and learning how like the nuances and of those things from the past is an important thing.
Right.
I don't think that's anti-Christian or anything like that. Yeah. I think where it starts to get problematic is it starts looking at like it's the power structure. These people had the power, these people were oppressed, and thus now these guys are, because these are the people that are oppressed. Now we ignore certain things or we discount certain things. And it's one thing to look at inconvenient truths of the past and reconcile, fit with, help us better understand history and how this actually works. It's another thing to say like, well, we actually got to throw something out and now I'm going to rebuild a new thing in order for my own manipulative
Now, I will say, coming into it, being so the issue maybe isn't whether there's veracity to the idea or not. It's just whether or not it's cliche.
Oh,
so coming into it, there was an aspect of it where I was like rolling my eyes, going, "All right, here we go. This is Frozen's version of a Danish 1619 project." And so I was actually really surprised that, just to jump ahead, that they rescue Arendelle. I was fairly certain that the way it was going to play out, if it was in keeping with the people's history of the United States, and that ideology is, well, the only thing to do is not only to go repair the past, but to demolish the present, and offer that on the altar of reparations to whatever historical wrong has been done, so that we can. So I was actually really surprised that they saved Arendelle,
or that they don't like give Arendelle over to the indigenous people or something at the end.
Right. And the other thing that I appreciate, which is very different than How to Train Your Dragons 3, which ended with essentially the segregationist agenda, where it's like, oh, wasn't it wonderful when we all worked together towards a greater future and embraced each other's differences, to they went to, well, we just can't live together, so we should just go ahead and segregate.
It's kind of bleak.
Like, that's rough. That's not the message I want my kids to grow up with.
That's a rough conclusion, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, didn't we have some rights movement to stop this? Like, and it just completely undoes the previous two movies. And so anyway, this doesn't do that in its defense. Again, because I'm going to try to steelman it and defend it. It ultimately is, we should bring these things forward, deal with them. And, you know, it's a kid's movie, so it's like Star Wars, where like you need good guys and you need bad guys. And so
right.
You know, it's not going to go into the same way old Westerns did it. It was like the cowboys are the good guys and the Indians are the bad guys. And this is just sort of the other way around. Like, you know, the in this one, the Indians are the good guys. Great. History is more complicated than that.
Sure.
But it's not, it's the G-rated kids movie.
Yeah.
Which is, I would say, again, because your wife's pushback was very present with me while I was watching this for this podcast, is a movie about sisters. And so the other thing this movie is about, I would say even more prominently than trying to figure out the political milieu of how the plot was concocted, the characters in this are growing up. And so this movie came out, like 6 years after the first one. So all the little kids that dressed up as Elsa and Anna, which right now is my daughter, she's all the time. Elsa, I have all the songs memorized, whether I like it or not. They are growing up. Olaf, who Josh Gad steals the show, like his affectation. I have no idea what he's like in real life. He's probably awesome. His affect drives me crazy, but he's amazing as Olaf.
Right.
So we go to Atta Holland.
He sings the song about like, I'm all this will make sense when I'm older. Yeah. And they also sing that song at the very beginning about how, you know, some things never change. And it turns out like, oh no, the only thing that doesn't change is the fact that everything changes.
Everything changes, right? Yeah.
And even as they're performing the song, everything that they're talking about in the lyrics is
changing,
antithetical to what's happening on screen. And so we see that like that they're in denial that these things are never going to change. It's all going to change.
Yeah.
And so part of what changes is sister's relationship to the kingdom, the kingdom's relationship to itself and its neighbors, and then the sister's relationship to one another.
Yeah.
And then it's almost like an afterthought, Kristoff's relationship to Anna. Like, that also changes.
Yeah. Yeah. You had a comment when we were talking about it earlier about like kind of steel manning the female perspective on like a Frozen 2. It's easy for us to come in and critique like the story and here's all the things that are bad about it and stupid fairy princess stuff and it's whatever. But then like, is that not the same thing as when your wife's like, what, like dudes playing cowboys in space and Star Wars, like guns and blasters, like what's wrong? Grow up. Like, like we unpack like, no, there's like meaning and connections that are to be had there. And the understanding ambition and understanding all the things that it says about that. Like, I do think there is some very real side of like the girls wanting to be a fairy princess and an Indian fairy princess. And like that's very much part of what this story is exploring that I don't think you and I totally grasp or understand too.
Yeah. We were just like, if I was going to do the opposite of steel man, if I was just going to straw man it, I'd be like, oh, so you just happen to be a half-blood magical Indian princess, like Elizabeth Warren here coming out of the, you know, so that you can go heal nature with the magic power inside you because you're just so special inside. And I'm just here for your adventure. So that's like frankly, being a dickhead about it.
That's the cynical dude perspective.
Yeah. And there's also something inside of women, and so if we're going to, it's Frozen, let's go out on thin ice, right? But so trying to dramatize this and project it and tell me, you know, chime in with your actual expertise, but in an entire human history where shortly after being like 9 years old, the entire world is populated with, you know, 50% of it is people bigger, meaner, stronger, more willing to throw their weight around. Like there's cruelty and vulnerability waiting for women when they step into adulthood. It's no wonder that so many of them are wanting to transition to be men because just the biological existence as a female carries so many things that are such a burden.
There's a level of vulnerability that is like guys will not be able to comprehend.
And so there's also a level of adventure to just leaving your house.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's one that like men, I think, fantasize about going on these adventures because they just kind of grow up. Yeah. And like it just sort of happened. And so for them to actually mature has to be kind of a voluntary act.
Definitely.
I'm going to go out into the world and learn and mature. Whereas for women, it's like
there's real risk.
It's like, congratulations, you're mature. You had no choice in the matter.
Right. Sure. Yeah. No, it's thrust upon you in a different way. My wife and her sister, or younger sister, she's in her 20s. We're hanging out and I just put the kids down. I'm like, I'm gonna go outside for a run. And they're like, I would never do that. Like it's 8:00 at night. It's dark. Like no way would I ever do that. And, you know, I was running down a trail and, you know, some people are kind of walking by and wearing a big coat, hands in their pockets. I'm like, whatever, I'm just going to run by. Like, I want to be comfortable with them doing it. Like, they're totally good instinct. Right. So like, that's the same thing we're talking about.
Yeah. And so there is this phenomenon that has emerged parallel to that, which is also throughout history, women have been able to exert influence and power, whether it's through cultural influence, whether it's through personal influence over the, you know, men, women, and children in their life. And so there is this unseen magical power that's uniquely feminine in that, like, hey, there's still 50% of the world is still female all this time later, you know, like there isn't, if anything, there's been this continuous growth of female influence in the public world, which I would argue there has always been that influence. It just hasn't been as socially public.
Right.
It hasn't been like civically prominent, but like so there is something about every woman where there is this magical fairy princess connection to nature and power where it's like, adulthood made me small compared to adult males, and yet I have power over them and over the world. Again,
and
comes
influence.
back to yes, an influence, which comes back to a canon that is primarily based on power.
Right.
Which is what I think Frozen 2 appeals to, at least in part. Specifically Elsa's journey is one of like acquiring and achieving this power dynamic.
Yeah. There's one scene with Elsa I do think is cool symbolically, where she's casting the ice to run across the ocean, and she keeps getting hit by the waves of chaos, and then as she starts to get some traction with it, this spirit horse comes and like tackles her and wrestles her underwater, and she almost drowns, right? And there is this idea, like, because she's about to get to the cave that's going to reveal all the secrets, right? So she's going to go through kind of the hero's journey-ish type thing, but before she does that, she has to wrestle this wild spirit Mustang, which I think represents her own wild emotional nature, her own the power she's got, but it's uncontained. She's got to discipline herself until at the end, once she does that, she's then riding on the horse across the waves of chaos to discover these secrets.
Yeah, that's great. And I think you're right about that. And I'm glad you brought that up, because I was trying to kind of wrestle with that. Because when she gets to the cave, she gets there, and then the answer to her journey is like, oh, I was all I ever needed the whole time. And it's like just this sort of neo-humanist, like fourth wave feminist, like cliche.
It's got a bit of like, who was the one guiding you your whole time? There's a bit of I could push back on that. Like, there's a spirit of your ancestors thing. It does have a tinge of like, it was your mom who was overlooked the whole time, who's actually the guiding spirit, that other than all these stupid tyrannical men in your life. That's in there. But
well, and I'm talking more about the lyric and the song, when she goes like, I got here and I was who I was looking for, and now I unleash my power, and she gets her new like fairy wing outfit, like she turns into Super Saiyan Elsa, and you get a cool new toy to purchase. If I'm again gonna straw man. But I was like, so that part there sucks. Like that the way that culminates is appealing to this other canon, which I think is a less useful story idea than what you usually find when the hero goes into the cave, which is that like, I'm the problem. I'm not the solution. I'm the problem.
Right.
And there's something.
It is a subversion of that. It's not Luke Skywalker goes in the cave, sees himself in Darth Vader, and deep down he knows like, there's a darkness in you you're going to have to confront, right? That's me. Yeah. Which is, this is, hey kid, you were great all along. All you need to do is discover that in yourself, right?
Yeah, all you need is you.
Yeah.
And so I was like, but she goes through these kinds of trials, and I think the number one trial she goes through is, for one thing, she's got to cast her sister away from her. Yeah. And so in the polar opposite of the previous, no pun intended, polar opposite, is that she, rather than needing to draw her sister to her in order to move forward, she actually casts her sister away so that she can move forward. And what I think is interesting about that, and I would love to have Jill's chime in on this, is that Sisterhood is great, and sooner or later it changes, because when Anna decides to step into her responsibility as queen and her responsibility as bride, mate to Kristoff, well, now that changes.
There's a separation there.
Yeah, and Elsa says, well, I'm going to go live my like single empowered life, out here with these other people and be like an activist in the woods. Yeah. Then like that
separates them. That changes.
It separates them. Things are different now.
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up, because my initial instinct when looking at that is, from where Frozen 1 was going, now you're undoing it. It's this deconstructionist. We're going to tear apart all the things that were good about the other one, right? I think that might be my own cynicism that creeps in, because I do think there's a part of what you're saying, which is the natural order of things. Like,
I think it is demonstrating the maturity of how relationships change.
It's because it's not like, hey, your sister's all you need. It's recognizing like, no, like I do think it remains that like Anna and Elsa's relationship and love with each other is foundational, but they have to grow up and mature beyond that, and to become the relationships, the roles that they will now play is not just like, hey, we got each other and that's all we need, and then we just stay there.
Yeah. I agree. I thought, hey, this is pretty deep. And I don't think I would have thought it if Jill hadn't have pushed back and said, like, hey, you guys forgot about the primacy of the sister relationship. And,
right.
And fair.
Yeah.
And so therein is the beauty of stories. And when people act like you can't tell stories that don't, like, you have to have a handicapped person play a handicapped person in the movie. And it's like, no, that, like, stories actually aren't just to amplify my identity profile. Stories are actually so I can step into yours. Yes. And so through conversation, through rewatching, and through having, I think, an open heart to it,
that's
I learned something about sisterhood.
Totally. Yeah.
Never. That wasn't on my bingo card.
No, that wasn't what I was thinking going into this, especially because when you watch one of these stories and you get a strong reaction, whether it's like, gosh, this like Marxist deconstructionist, we're doing Dances with Wolves again, but with kids, and now we're going to take away all the things
this Fern Gully.
Yeah. But like you get that reaction, or you get the like Disney princess is outdated and you don't like, you just need a man to rescue you, and that's all it's saying. Like you've heard in our, when we do the Cinderella episode, like there's these other sides of each of those lines of thought that like you miss out on things when you just fit this into whatever little narrative box you have in your mind in order to dismiss it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean you have to like it, doesn't mean whatever, but like there's depth to these things. Now, I do think like there's propagandistic elements of that. I do think there's this, like, it does feel like there's an overt, we're not doing the Western Christian canon. That is trying to be pushed. But even still, I think there's these elements of truth that we're kind of discussing here. You can't help but see that, can't help but push themselves through that.
Yeah. If you find yourself encountering a compelling story, then chances are there's some elements of something universal hidden in it.
Right.
And even amidst dross. And so the other things that I find interesting is, so Anna's journey is, and she gets to go to a literal cave as well. Like they're both in these caves. And so Elsa goes to a cave, finds her power and like manifests it, and then winds up going, like she goes too deep into the experience where she can't get out on her own.
Yeah.
I don't really understand the mechanic of how she breaks free of it. Like Anna's love, her heartache, her sorrow in that cave or whatever, like floats on the wind. And I gotta say, like, the whole water has memory thing is such a cheap, like, shorthand for actually writing a story. It's clever visually, like so nicely done there, but it's just flashbacks. It's just cleverly disguised flashbacks. And it's like, it's almost like a bad video game where like, okay, you just get to the next objective and then a cutscene plays so that you know what the next thing is, and then another cutscene plays so that you can figure out what happened without actually doing the work of like solving a mystery, you know?
I'm trying to think through like what would be the Steelman version of that. Water is chaos, water is fluid, water is...
Yeah, but if water represents chaos and change, why is it distilling things permanently into memory? You know, and
it does the opposite. It washes away the sins of the past.
Yeah, it breaks things down into constituent elements, and so the water has memory thing. Like it's cute and all, and they made it work for this, but I think ultimately it's sort of a...
If someone can think through a better take on that, let us know. But it definitely feels to us like a
convenience.
It feels like you're trying to go for like some deep idea without really fleshing it out.
I don't even think that. I think someone figured out like how are we gonna convey all this exposition, just blatant exposition.
I just think of the scene where Olaf goes like, I got this idea, water has memory, and we're going to explore that. What does that mean? It kind of feels like it's setting up for like there's going to be some big reveal of that, but it's like if you try and throw in something symbolic like that, water, memory, all these things, but then it's got all these other connotations and now all these things clash and it's mixed message. It feels muddy.
Yeah. Anyway. And the only purpose it serves through the whole film is just to deliver exposition. And so it's a little, I don't know, I highly recommend people check out, I think it's Screen Rant where they do the pitch meetings.
Yeah, yeah.
And the guy films himself, and he's all the different characters. Have you seen those?
Yeah.
And as he's pitching the movie, and he always does it for terrible screenplays. And so he's pitching the movie, and he's like, yeah. And so then they just go, and the water just tells them everything they need to know. It's hardly an inconvenience. And so that's that whole thing. It's like, isn't that convenient that water makes up 98% of creation, and it just tells you everything you need to know.
Right. Yeah.
And it doesn't lie. None of the scenes are ambiguous.
Yeah. No, it's it's a little on the nose. So it's, I guess, to kind of wrap it up, the story ends with Anna gets the big rock monsters to come help her break down the dam, correct the sins of the past. Yeah. The cave around the dome of mist around.
When she does that, the soldiers that have spent the last 50 years of their lives dedicated to protecting the dam change their minds
in an instant. Yeah.
Because she screams something. So again, hardly an inconvenience. Well, we'll just help. But you know, okay.
Oh, you gotta tear this whole construction thing down. Like, it's a little bit like,
we just spent the last 50 years protecting it. Like, oh, it'll wash Arendelle away. Okay, no problem. Let's just do it, guys.
It's the same thing that we've complained about, where in a lot of modern films, like the villain, their comeuppance is they're talked into being a good guy, or they have a realization of like, oh, I didn't know. Okay, now I know, and I'm going to do better next time. And the complications around that and the politics of Arendelle that would go into that, I don't think it would just be like, oh yeah, sure, just like knock it down, cool.
Yeah, let's reverse policy. Let's go, guys.
Yeah, and
Anna looks like she means it.
That magically fixes everything. There's no way there's going to be second and third order consequences that we can't imagine here. Because then I was going to add, Arendelle is about to get washed away as a result. So they almost do destroy Arendelle, but for the grace of the native people who are now led by Elsa, which is weird in some way, she comes in and uses her powers to protect the city. So Arendelle is gracefully spared by the power of the natives who they had wronged.
Yeah. She steps into her power that she's had all along, and she comes and saves it. And
but it's got the distinction because it doesn't feel like she's saving it as one of the people of Arendelle anymore. It feels like she's saving it on behalf of the tribe she's now joining.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the Anna, and again, this comes back to that idea. We talk about it when we're in favor of the canon that it's a proponent of in nuance. It's the same thing when it's this canon, like when there's this modernist, fourth wave feminist, neo-humanist, ecological Gaia worship canon that it's coming from. It's also in every nuance. And so, for example, when Elsa is giving all the kids little toys, like, it's not a mistake that when the little girl comes up, she asks for this like advanced astrolabe sextant, because she's going to go do STEM. Because
girls can do STEM too, Micah.
Well, and that's part of the agenda. We must constantly be reminded that's the priority. And so, it's not an accident.
I'll say, like, Jill, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but like all the pushback I've gotten about like, hey, the sisterhood, the relationships, that's all the focus of that. Every time I bring up that piece, it's always like, well, yeah, I mean, girls can do STEM too, it's fine. But like, I've not heard from her for other people like an attachment to that type of stuff. Like, it's fine. Yeah. It don't get in the way of it, but like, it's not like that's the thing we're going to fight for. But you miss the sister relationships, I'm fighting for that. Like, I'm going to call you out on that. Yeah. Right.
And so even in the midst of sort of this hail of very intentionally placed, subtle propaganda, the thing that Jill's coming away with is the universal thing.
Yeah.
And so and again, and I don't know if this tendency for talking to be the thing that changes everything, like, it makes me think of activism, because activism is primarily just yelling at people and expecting the whole world to change. Yeah. And so I don't know if it's a mindset that says, well, if you just yell loud enough, you use your voice, that's your power, use your voice, and you'll change the world. Because when she goes to the rocks, she screams, which is frequently a sort of activist scream. Is wake up and change the world the way I'm telling you, right? So you scream at creation, and it responds, and it does what you want it to do. Yeah. And in Kanto and a lot of these other movies, it's like you tell them with a lot of pathos what you want, and they do it. And Toy Story 4, you need to take the voice box from the white patriarchal male, and you need to put it into the overlooked and oppressed, female. And if you just take the voice, and once they have the voice, they can go do what they want. Mm-hmm. And so those elements they're canonical to this new, hopefully short-lived canon.
Yeah.
But they're very intentional. They're in there.
Yep. And I mean, that would be another thing too. Like if you're listening to these and it's starting to shift the way you see stories, like in some of these types of stories, like watch where those themes start coming up. Because like once you start noticing them, they're everywhere.
Yeah. And then wonder, is that universal? Does that resonate? Or is that a temporal modernist kind of thing that, is correct? Think, like right thing.
Well, I think the distinction I notice between people's reactions with that, the people who like that stuff will cheer for it. Yes, that is right. Yes, so you cheer for it. I don't hear anyone like have an emotional reaction, break down in tears, feel like I've realized something about my life, or it makes me want to love my kids better, or it makes me
I'm
want
to call my sister when I get out of this movie.
It makes me want to like connect to the things that are really important. I don't feel like inspired like when Simba takes his place at the head of Pride Rock at the end of Lion King is the rain's washing away everything. Like it's a different reaction you get. And okay, if you like it, okay. But like the you like it reactions, it's a yes, let's go do that. Let's go cheer. Let's go like it's a pep rally type reaction rather than a introspective. I have something about my life to come.
Yeah, and then just before we wrap, I do want to, because in the first one I kind of threw some shade at the songwriters, and so I want to say with this one, I like the music way more, and it feels way more tied to the vibe, and it's kind of fun. They did like an emo kind of twist to it, I
like Weezer doing the Lost in the Woods song. It's great.
Perfect. And so villain comeuppance, there isn't like the comeuppance is like they're just correcting the past, so there is no living villain.
I think there's no living villain. I think the villain would be like my evil colonialist grandfather who I'm tearing down the work that he did.
There you go. Tearing down the statues.
Tearing down the
statues.
I'm tearing down the dam. I'm correcting that jerk's issue. We're gonna put it in place, right? And
there you go. So you're tearing down the old work of stone to erect a new statue. That's very much in the canon of this new worldview. We watched it play out in real life. What other elements?
Even at the beginning, they reveal a new statue, or no, at the end of the movie, they reveal the new statue is in contrast to the painting of the parents who passed away in the first one. It's the parents as children. Mom represents the natives, dad represents Arendelle, and now we're like together but living in peace. It's a new image of harmony gets revealed on top of this thing we just toppled, which is like it or not, that's the focus, that's the ethos of the story.
And there is the fun thing is the compass for Anna is just do the next right thing, but we're in a postmodern world where what is the right thing? How do you know the right thing for one is different than the other? Like what gives you the right to judge?
Well, and
the next right thing for grandpa.
Yeah. And so as she's singing that song, the next right thing, I have to go tear down this dam.
Right.
Terrorism? I don't know. You could argue that. Right. I say that tongue in cheek because I don't think that's what the ethos of it is, but it does demonstrate what is the next right thing and what could be like.
And how are you going to figure out what right is?
And people who do destructive acts do so for righteous intentions.
Yes. They're quite certain that it's the right thing.
In their mind, this is the next right thing. And so that's if I was to argue the flaw in that ethos, it's not having that moral compass and understanding you have a capacity to get this wrong and sometimes catastrophic.
It's on the one hand saying, I don't want your compass. Your idea of there being right and wrong is so broken and ancient and outdated and oppressive. But
okay, so what is your compass?
We're just going to do the right thing.
We're going to do the right thing because we know what the right thing is. And then, okay, well, hold on, because what is that? And if maybe it's well-intentioned, maybe that creates some good initially, but if you don't have a sense of compass, you play that story out over a long period of time, welcome to totalitarianism.
And I also think What I do enjoy is that Elsa does wind up in Community, because I was pretty sure it was going to wind up with her just being like magical ice princess in the north, which would be the prequel to a really great Frozen 3, where she actually becomes a villainous ice princess like in the stories, which is like she just goes off isolation, dwells on power dynamic, and comes back as this like evil witch.
I think they're trying to get away from the Hans Christian Andersen stories. We've made that clear, right?
I think they made that pretty clear, But so anyway, so Frozen 2 upshot is, is it, there's some stuff in there that's going to resonate. The trappings of it are great. The animation's great. All the performances are great.
Yeah. And seriously, like, let us know your takes on this. Again, we're laymen. We're people who are interested in this. We're dads who are watching this. We have our perspectives and our expertise on stuff. And so, I hope that can make it interesting and helpful and bring some richness to this. But like, if our perspectives are not ones that you share, then please share those and dialogue with us. Again, that's one of our favorite parts about doing this. And so we hope to invite more of that with our audience, whatever audience we have, and to stoke those conversations with each other. Yeah, this one was more fun than I think either one of us were anticipating.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, thanks guys. We'll see you next time.